Okay, yeah, recording. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of the Soul Podcast. Today I am joined by my good friend Brad, and hoping to make this like more of a weekly occurrence. We always used to meet up for cups of coffee and like really long chats, and we did actually record a podcast earlier, but it was a really long chat, so we decided to re-record it.
We do
Make it more listenable for everyone, so they're not spending like 3 hours of their life listening to us talking. But yeah, so really the intention like behind this podcast today was all about well, we're going to do an introduction anyway about like how we met, but the intention behind this is really about kind of like career paths and it, like navigating so much change, especially over the last kind of like 12 months. It's just really kind of like the underlying message is, even though like life can change, like it doesn't mean to say that you don't have to stay in the same kind of career path, in the same like kind of identity. You can just roll with the changes and just like roll with inspiration and be in that like creativity.
Exactly,
being within creativity.
And don't be worried about stopping and starting again kind of thing. It doesn't matter what age you are and what you're going through financially. I think it's a big risk, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you need to go back to go forwards as well. So
yeah, 100%. And I think so many people right now are struggling either with their identity, with what they're going to do for work, especially if like Brad, like you had a salon, or have a salon, or that sort of environment where at the moment you're not actually able to carry out any work at all. Exactly. People are struggling with finances and things like that. So hopefully you'll get some benefit out of what we share today. And then and we'll try and keep on track.
Yeah, definitely.
Try and keep on track this time. But yeah, like I mean, yeah, introduce yourself anyway, and then we'll go from there.
It keeps coming to mind the fact that when we first met was all them years ago, and it's like a whole different lifetime away. It was like we was completely different people. We had maybe different focuses in our life, and personally, and for our career path as well. And I just think it's mad, really. If you think about the days when we was working at Chloe's Beauty Bar. So when I met Natalie, we met, how many years ago was it? 4, 5, 6 more?
I had Aoife in the May before, so she'll be 6 this year, so it's like 5 years in March.
Because then you bring her in once into the shop when she was a baby, when I asked for a meeting. I think you did.
Yes, I did.
You did. So it's
I did.
Yeah. So my name's Brad, and I've got a salon in Leon City. We opened up January 2020 and got closed March due to the first lockdown. We opened up again in July. Then we closed again November for 2 weeks, I think it was. Then we reopened again, and we got closed the week before Christmas instantly. That night, you had to close tonight. So no advance warning. So we actually all completely closed. So obviously now we're closed now until further notice. We've been told around February, but I predict end of March, maybe April. So yeah, it's pretty tough at the moment. But so I've got my own salon, and I teach in Europe as well. So I teach in for a brand called Colour Wow, and we go around the world kind of teaching hairdressing, and it's product basis. And I do hair for TV and magazines and stuff as well. So I've got a lot going on. Well, I did have a lot going on at one point, but at the moment, doing this with Natalie. This is my only job at the moment. I'm doing podcasts with Natalie, hopefully do more and more of them. So yeah, my life now is completely different to when we first met. So my career first started, I was in the same salon for about 12 years. And then the next step was to go into managing. So I started to work in a little shop across the road where I worked for a long while, managing a business. And I was like 25. was managing that big shop at 25, and I took that company from having 4 staff, and then when I left that company there was 24. So the space of like 2 years we grew massively, and it wasn't the right place for me, so I moved on. And one of the clients that come to me at that shop, she opened her own business in Brentwood, and it was Chloe's Beauty Bar, which is shown on Towie. And that's how I met Natalie. She came and joined me as a makeup artist, and that was the start of your makeup career, right? Was that when it all started? Or?
Yeah, because it was at the beginning, because I'd started in October,
Right.
and then I was really looking for. At the time, I was doing a lot of the what did they call it when you did stuff for free?
Oh yeah,
TF shoot.
test.
Is it TF?
What test shooting? Like testing.
Yeah,
Or,
I can't think what they used to call it, but it was
like,
a lot of
out there, isn't it? Like just
yeah. It was just kind of, and I met some great people as well, actually, and I did some really great things. But yeah, you basically just go out and you give your services for absolutely free, and then you get the photos and whatever else for your portfolio. That's basically what it was for.
I think that as well, yeah.
And then one of my friends, who I'd met through my amateur dramatics group, was your client, so that was Helen.
Oh, of course it was.
Yeah, and so she was like, "Oh, you should speak to my friend Brad, because he owns Chloe's. Oh, not owns Chloe's. He's manager at Chloe's."
Yeah.
And then yeah, it was just like
it's a whole different world, a whole different
mental place.
Exactly. It was like, obviously the shop is from a reality TV program, so there was this constant flow of people coming just to come into the shop. It was like working at Disneyland, and there was kind of coming in to see
Towie Land.
They'd walk in and they'd just come in and walk in and just want to see one of the people from the TV show, not realizing it's just a business. Like, you can't just walk in and want to walk around. It's not Harry Potter world. So so I went from working in a normal shop and managing a normal shop, and because my client that owned this that owned Chloe's, she's seen me change it from having a few staff to then succeeding to being this big company and big brand. So she wanted me to use that same template and bring it into Chloe's, and to hopefully bring in more clients that were more normal, like Joe Blogs on the street. So none of these people that are just fans of the show. She wanted to bring in some day-to-day business, because during the week we was very dead. And then Saturday, as you know now, it was a whole different world. So on a Saturday, we'd have 5 to 6 hen dos every week. So I worked there for 10 months, and every single Saturday, we did about 5 to 6 hen do parties. And as you can imagine, in every hen do, there's about 5 to 12 women in this party. So they'd turn up from up north, from like Manchester, Liverpool, and they'd turn up drunk already. And then they'd we spoke about stories earlier about we had clients falling asleep, getting their makeup done. We had people being sick. We had women touching me when they shouldn't be touching me. They'd like slide me their number, which I can't complain about. I mean, hello. But yeah, but it was a lot, wasn't it? And that was just very drunk. And there was bad days where we had like about 80 people at one point waiting, because they come in like in bus loads, basically. Bus loads of people were coming in, and there'd be bus tours. There'd be tours that come along to come into the shop. So we had the poor receptionist trying to deal with that at the front as well. These tours coming in, as well as these drunk women coming from Manchester. I mean, think about it now. It was hell. Like, I'd work from 8 till 10 sometimes at night, and trying to manage a team of 18 to 20 people in a small amount of space,
and with no break.
With no breaks. We didn't stop.
We didn't get a break.
We didn't eat. We didn't stop.
No.
We didn't drink. And the worst thing, obviously, of it, the first worst thing of that is that I was the face of it, because I was trying to. I don't want, obviously, everyone's not to eat or drink. Of course, I want everyone to have breaks, but it wasn't down to me. I was just a puppet behind the guys. Do you know what I mean? So I was just being told what I had to do and how I had to manage it, which is the worst thing being a manager of a business. It's not yours. You're told what to say and what to do and who to say it to, and then you go off and have to do what you're told, and then you have to repeat back what you're told to do. So none of us were doing a full service we would like to. Because like Nat, you used to do makeups in like 20 minutes, wasn't there?
Yeah, we'd do a full face in 20 minutes, because we couldn't, because you couldn't physically fit them in. I mean, I dread to think what the most amount of makeups that I did in one afternoon, like working for, because I would kind of start at about 12 in the afternoon, then I'd finish at 8.
That's it. So 8
And
hours.
8 hours, and the money that I made was pretty much enough to cover my car park and my petrol.
Yeah.
So it's wild actually when you think about it, what people are willing to do just to get exposure.
Yeah, exactly that. And
how
far you
just
would go.
So that you could say, oh yeah, beauty bar, or maybe you had the opportunity to do like one of the girls' makeup or something like that. Exactly. And then it's something more for your portfolio, just well,
exactly. It's just madness when you think about what we was doing. And like you said, like me, for example, I'd get someone shampooed, and while they're getting shampooed, I would quickly do another style on someone else. Like I'd be doing 2 clients at the same time constantly, and I'd be working there from 8 till when we closed. I didn't leave until everyone was gone.
I could still see your eyes like burning into everybody.
Yeah. No, don't.
You'd constantly be looking over to be like, to see if we were turning over the makeups fast enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly
yeah, it was just a really stressful environment. Like it was a really unenjoyable environment to be in, and that's no reflection on the face behind it. That's no reflection on like anyone in particular. It was just not a nice energy to be around, because like when we was like recording this earlier, just like you said, it was like working in a nightclub.
Yeah, literally that, because everyone was drunk, it's really loud, it's really crowded, and like you said, I was trying to control. If you think about it, like that's not my management skills at all. I'm more laid back and I'm calm, and I want to help people in their careers, and I want to be there, and my team comes first. Like I would help anybody out the whole time, but in this job, I was a whole different person. It's so different. During the week, I was being manager Brad that I've always been, but then at the weekend, it was a whole different ball game. It was like you said, like managing a nightclub, and I'd have, I don't know, like 8 makeup artists and 8 stylists all at one, and then even more than that, because in the end we had to just find spaces. So we just put up a chair, not even with a mirror, and just say, okay, you're doing this today, and we have like 10 makeup artists. And so I'm trying to look after, and also every week there was someone new starting. It wasn't like the same staff every day. I had someone new coming every time, because that's to fit me that amount of time. Because like you said, you start at 12 and work till 8, and before that I'd have someone start at 8, work till 12, or I'd have someone start at 11, working till 4. I'd have just overlap constantly of people. So if thinking about it, it was fucking mad. It was mad, and I wasn't.
Why did we do it? But it was worth it, because it meant that our paths crossed. And I mean, like you was there for like 10 months, I was there for 2 months.
Exactly.
And we still managed to keep that.
But that's how we met. That is how we met.
That is how we met. That is how we met. And then after that, you then went on to work at other salons, and then opened up your own salon at the beginning of.
Yeah, so I got to the point where, as we used to have a little catch-ups, we had like little coffee meetings, didn't we, every now and then, every few months, just to work out where I was going, because just to fend off, because I was confused where I was going in my path. Like I had no idea what I was doing in my career at all. I think since I left that company that I was first managing, because I wasn't happy there at all, then I went to Chloe's. It just really destroyed this idea of what I wanted to do, to be a manager. And also, when I was younger, my main aim was to manage. And then when I got to that point, I was like, this is shit. This is not what I want to do. This is not what, this is it. This is what I wanted to do. This is my end goal of my career. So then I left and went to a few different shops. And at one point, I'd work half a week in Brentwood, half a week in Blirricky, couple of days in Lee to kind of see where my path was going, and wherever kicked off, I'd stay in that area. So if it got busy in Brentwood, I'd do more days in Brentwood, or if it got busier. But then in the end, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I live in Lee. I want to be in Lee. Like, why am I making this more stressful? Like, why am I driving for 40 minutes a day to get somewhere that I prefer to be where I live? So then I started working more in Lee. And then, yeah, I've got my own salon now. Like I said, it's opened up in probably one of the hardest years of anyone's business career. And we're still going, like, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. I've got a team of 3 that work with me. That changes every now and then. I've got another 2 girls that want to come and join me, but it's lockdown time, so it's all under conversation. I also do things like I brought out my jellyfish. So my shop's called Jellyfish. I brought out a merch, and I sold t-shirts and hoodies, and the money went straight to a charity called Mind. So I think I had like 200 t-shirts, and I sold them all in 2 days. Then I brought out hoodies, and they sold like super quick as well. So, and also I work, so I also educate for a brand called Colour Wow, and I travel all over for that. So my career is at the point now where I've always wanted it to be, but then lockdown happened. So who knows? But the last couple of lockdowns were okay, because financially I had savings from before, but it just gets harder and harder. I mean,
Yeah, so this is what I'm really curious about, actually. And this is where I feel like the real value from this could be, because obviously for me, I have been in the online space for like 5 years. And so I'm used to doing everything online. I'm used to connecting with people online. I'm used to building my businesses online. I've done other little bits in between, but I'm also really fortunate that Dave has still been able to go out and do work this whole time as well.
Yeah.
And then I'm also really even more fortunate that I have this deep-rooted belief that if ever I need a job, I can get it like that.
Yeah.
And because that belief's so strong, it happens every time.
Exactly.
So when it did get to a stage where I was like, okay, there's a potential second lockdown coming. I don't think I want the additional, I don't know if Dave's going to be able to work. I don't know if he's going to be a key worker. And also my business at that time, with online businesses, especially when you're building something relatively new, you're going to have peaks and troughs. So although at the very beginning of lockdown, my business kind of like soared, when I took a dip during that time, and I took my foot off the gas and I took my eye off the game, my business then took a bit of a dive along with it. So I was in this position where I was like, right, if we're going to face another one, if the word on the street's right and it's going to happen again, I have this thing where I don't ever want to put the pressure on Dave to go and find something else, because I know that I'm capable of going to go and get something else.
Exactly. Yeah.
So one morning I just woke up and I was like, right, I'm gonna find a part-time job that I can work from home, so that I've always got that extra thing, because I personally didn't want to stay on. I was already on universal credit anyway from the beginning of the year when I had my own business, my food business, my delivery business, just to kind of help alongside it. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be reliant on anything. So I wanted to have my own money kind of coming in and not be reliant on that.
Yeah.
So I made the decision in one morning, and then that day
it was done.
Yeah. It was done. Yeah, it was an old job that I actually had. It was advertised and I applied, and then by the following week I was training again. Okay. So I'm so lucky and so grateful that I actually have that.
Yeah.
Because it also gives me more structure to my day as well. And I think that's probably another thing that people are struggling with. But my point being that because I'm used to this kind of lifestyle where I can just pick stuff up whenever I want, freelancing, even with makeup, just pick stuff up whenever I wanted.
So true. Yeah.
How is this actually impacting people that have like a brick and mortar business?
So that's why I struggled big time, because the first lockdown, so like I said before, I've got a few jobs. I've got a salon, I work for magazines, TV, and I do teaching as well. So I'm used to, and I've got a little boy, and I've got a house, I've got a life, so I'm used to being non-stop all the time. If I'm flying to somewhere for work, I'm working on the plane. I'm doing paperwork for one of my other jobs. I'm constantly working. So then when we come to lockdown, I just plummeted instantly, and it's a massive shock. I was like, I'm used to working since I've been 16. I've been working like hard. I've always worked really, really hard. And it got to the point where I was like, I was getting like panic attacks about the next day. I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, it's just a thing as well. The first lockdown, it was the unknown. Obviously, we're number 3 now, so we kind of know how they kind of work a little bit. The first one, we didn't know when the end would be. So it was a massive, and obviously I can't work. I can't work. All I was doing was, because I work for an American brand, we was doing more online stuff. So I teach usually hands-on. So I started teaching through Zooms, and this is a whole new world for us. If you're a hairdresser, you're used to being face-to-face, hands-on, talking to people, and that was our kind of like safety blanket. That's our stage. We're used to that. And then being told to now Zoom, it was like a whole new world. And we're not all computer savvy. We're all more like creative minded. So we're all slightly different. So it was a whole new world for us completely, really. And then having meetings through Zooms, and it was a whole new world. And then financially, because my business, my salon was only 2 months old, I wasn't entitled to get any help, because your business has to be older than a year. So mine was 2 months old. So I was not financially able to get any help from the government at all. So I had to use my savings to survive. And because on paper, I've got like 3 or 4 jobs, I wasn't able to get any help, because on paper, I earned too much to get any help, but I wasn't working. So put it this way, this year, like the last year, I've only worked 6 months of a year. So I've been paid for 6 months of a year through my one business, because my salons paid me obviously when I got back to work, but I've not been able to teach since February. So nearly a year. I've not been teaching for nearly a year. So, and I've done like Towie and stuff. I do the hair for Towie still, but that's been not on up and down all the time really. So I get bits and pieces of money for that when we're allowed to. So yeah, I do feel really sorry for other little businesses around my way, because there's not many chains in Leigh-on-Sea. So there's been a lot of small businesses that have collapsed.
Yeah.
It just gets worse and worse. And even big businesses, like look at Topshop and stuff, they're all collapsing. It's just affected everybody. And what I've noticed as well is that the first lockdown, it affected a lot of men. Obviously affected women a lot, but mentally, men are used to going out to work and going and see the friends, whatever. And I think women are more used to being mum and working. And so they're used to kind of getting on with it. But men didn't have that escape. Like, do you know what I mean? I think men suffered a lot more because they couldn't go out and see their friends. And also a lot of men had to work at home. So they wasn't used to being around kids. So like, I've had friends say to me, they take longer to get home. They'd drive the long way round because they haven't got to spend time with the kids. Like, it's a whole different ball game. I think like mental health is really took a plummet in a whole different direction now because of this, financially and because of being at home. And I've had friends that both partners have had to work at home. So they've had to see each other 24/7. They've had to work together. They've had to, like, they run out of conversation. When they sit down and chat after dinner, they've got no conversations. So
yeah, I mean, there's been like I feel like we could do a whole podcast just on that, like relationships in
definitely.
lockdown. And then also, I mean, I'd go into it at another time, but for me it actually had the opposite effect. It actually brought us closer together, whereas I know people that have literally split
exactly
in this time. So it has been like just so testing on everyone and every level. But like, how have you actually navigated through this year being paid just 6 months and like and being on your own as well? Because it's not even like you've got somebody to.
No, exactly. So financial wise, well, I was doing Zooms, so I was getting paid like for Zooms, so I was getting bits and pieces every now and then. It's like anything, like when we went back to normal, we was super busy. And I saw you in between that time, and I was
Yeah.
really, really busy, super busy. And all my team, I had a whole new team, because basically before lockdown, it was just me by myself. And then after lockdown, I had a whole new team because all these people lost their jobs or their shops closed down or all these bits and pieces. So I had a whole new team to look after, as well as being really busy. So we went back to doing 12-hour days and we was really busy. So financially, we was up. The business was up. Personally, I was up. And then when we ended up in lockdown, that money that I got was keeping me alive again for another lockdown. It was like a constant roller coaster, up and then down. Like we was well off, then we was worse, and obviously then Christmas, we had lockdown, so no clients at all get their hair done. Then he's back to work in December. We were super busy because of Christmas and because no one could get their hair done for a few weeks as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like up and down. And it's like the lockdowns felt like they was getting better, then they was getting worse, and it felt like, oh, we're coming out of it now. Oh no, we're not. So it's tricky to work out how much spend you can spend out. Like give you an example. Before this last lockdown, I spent a lot of money on products. So I spent $2,000 in a week to spend on. So I had enough products for a couple of weeks in my shop, like colours and products that we sell as well. And then obviously we was told to close. So now I've got $2,000 worth of products that are just sitting there in my shop that I just need to have. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's been super hard. That's what I don't understand with like the coffee shop, for example. What do they do with the food? Like once we was told to close right now, they must have to throw loads of food away. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think like this is the thing though. It depends on what your it depends on what kind of mentality that you have.
Uh-huh.
There was a great story, actually. I can't think who I'd heard it from, but it was about I've been Dean Graziosi actually, but it was about basically this one road in somewhere in America where there was a cafe on kind of either side of the road.
Mhm.
And when the first lockdown happened, one of the cafes basically was just like really angry and like, how am I going to, I can't do anything, like closed himself down. But the other people just kind of went, right, okay, how can we adapt? How can we pivot for this? And literally built a drive-through so people were able to still go and use that drive-through. And I think like that is, it's almost like, and I was saying this yesterday, like a lot of times this last year, I've had this moment where I'm like, I feel like I'm in the Hunger Games.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Definitely.
That's how it feels. But it is just like we can adapt to anything that's thrown at us. It's just whether or not you know that and you understand that and you have the capacity to do that. So like, even though you've obviously had your business closed, you've still had that ability to be able to do stuff online. Like I still believe that even these people that actually do have these brick and mortar businesses, if they took a step back and thought about it, they could create something. Like I saw hairdressers that were making like hair dye kits.
Yeah, exactly.
And taking them around to their customers. Exactly. Or even like what you're saying about cafes and stuff like that, turn it into a takeaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild Health.
Yeah.
They've still been able to be open this whole time because they've got their little shutter and they just do a takeaway service. So it's about kind of pivoting and adapting to the change that's actually happening and knowing that and kind of being okay with the fact that even if you've done something a certain way for a really long period, you can
adapt.
Either adapt your business to it, or you can kind of think, right, what are my skills?
Yeah.
And how can I actually utilize these to be able to bring in some level of income for survival in the meantime?
So exactly. So it goes back to our conversation when I was going to leave hairdressing completely and I didn't know where my path would be. And I literally just started again. I went from managing a business to literally like, what can I do? What's my path? What should I go off on? But the trickiest thing with the whole coffee shop takeaway is that if they stay open for takeaway, the government doesn't give them any help, like money wise. So they're like in between, like a hard place really. Like if they know they'll be really busy, that's fine. But like there's one that's right next to me, and this time around they're just closed because it's a risk. Because
Well, can they do deliveries? Is what happens if it's deliveries though? What if they don't stay open as a takeaway service? But what if they were doing deliveries?
You're still running, you're still getting financial gain. So the government sees that as they can't help, they won't help you. So they've literally just said, we're going to close because they'll get less risk if they get this set income.
It's so hard though, isn't it? Because it's like, do you want to do that for the short term? How is it going to impact your business long term?
Yeah, exactly.
How's it going to impact your life long term? And I think this is what I've seen right from the beginning of all of this. And I think because I'm generally quite a forward thinking person anyway, it's what are the long term effects of what this is going to be? Like at the very, and again, do a complete different podcast on this, but my head went initially straight to, right, people's health, right? What can you do? How can you start boosting your immune system? What can you do to help yourself? Because long term, you need to be thinking, if this happens again, and that's what it was like within my own business. I was thrown into this position where it was funny because I had my own food delivery business, which technically was the best kind of business that I could have started at the beginning of that year.
Amazing,
right? And I remember saying to Dave, like, I think I've actually done like the right thing here with this, but I didn't know at the beginning how severe things could be. And I had been really ill in the December, and I'd had a cough for like 3 months, and they actually wanted to test me for asthma. And of course, at the time, they were like, if you've got asthma, you need to self-isolate for like 16 weeks or whatever the mental thing it was. I can't even remember now, like crazy, so long ago. So I didn't want to risk, because it was just me and Dave and Aoife at home. And the headspace that I was in, because I had a friend in Spain that literally put the fear of like God into me and was like, this is what's happening over here and it's coming over to the UK. I remember just being like, we can't get sick, because if we get sick, she's on her own.
Exactly.
The like, for me, I was like, the game here is to, initially it was like, the game here is to not end up in hospital, because if you're going in there, you're not coming out. That's how it felt at that time. So it was just although it was it wasn't necessarily a bad thing to have that at the time. It made me realize that actually I needed to put my attention into my other business, which is what has kept me afloat this whole time, because that was already something that was set there ready to execute. And all I kept thinking was, if this happened, not in my lifetime, but in my daughter's lifetime, what skills am I giving her now that's going to enable her to create her own economy?
Exactly.
Literally, but not everyone thinks like that. But that's how I was thinking. And that's how I've continued to think. So whenever I totally respect people's decisions if they say, right now, the stress of the financial burden and stuff like that, it's better for me to close. I think, are you thinking about this long term? And is there something you can do in between?
I think that was their path originally, but I think they're deflated. I think it's the fact of, imagine sitting there, no one's coming in. And it's winter time, so people don't really go out as much. Maybe it's that kind of idea. And I think they're deflated. I think it's that kind of concept. But the thing is, Nat, me and you think this alike, as in we always think of what can we do for others and how can we help others and that kind of thing. But our last conversation when we actually could see each other was you teaching me to kind of think of myself, not in a selfish way, but kind of put myself first and start looking after myself before I keep having to reach out for everybody all the time. And I think that's what's kind of improved my year so far this year. Well, while sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been the same, like just doing a lot of like inner work. And actually, the more now I've got myself into this position where the more kind of noise and stress that seems to be happening in the outside world, the more I go, oh, okay, I need to remove myself from this app and I
Uh-huh.
need to go and do some more meditation. Like, that is what I do now. I'm like, I'm just going to remove myself from this situation, and
Definitely.
I'm just going to go inwards.
Exactly.
And I now live in this little bubble of happiness.
I think what it is with me, it's constant, because when I left the second shop, it's been a few shops. When I left the second shop before Chloe's, in between, I was getting my own shop with a business partner, and basically they shit on me. Let's just keep it like simple. They shit on me, and I lost everything. I lost all my money. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost everything at once. So I know what it's like to have nothing and kind of start again. So in the back of my head, it's constantly thinking to myself, how can I help people in their career path? And when I speak to people, or not even in my business, but any business, I'm like, what can I do to help them? Like anything, any of my friends, like, what can I do? Because I do a few different careers. Because with hairdressing, you can do a few different paths, and a lot of people that can hopefully help connect people. If somebody starts a business, I think, right, who do I know that I can connect them with? Who can I tag them with? Who can I push them forwards? And who can I say, add them on Instagram and follow them, because they're going to help you with your business? That's always been my train of thought. But since our last conversation, you've said to me, like, I need to think, what can I do for myself first at the moment?
Yeah, and it's more like, it's more from a perspective of, we physically cannot help anybody. Like, the best way that we can help anybody else is by helping ourselves first.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
once we've kind of like raised our vibration, once we've raised our like happiness, once we feel more kind of centered in ourselves, then you're able to give clearer information to people, or better ideas to people. But actually, I think what you just said there, because I've always been the same, I see myself as a connector. I'm always kind of, I'll hear someone's story, and then someone else come into my life that needs that, and I go, oh, okay, go and speak to that person. And some of that has been like, most that's been more personal than anything else. You know, maybe someone's lost a loved one, and then somebody else comes in that also has the same problem, and I go, oh, you should speak to this person, can I connect you? You're both going through the same sort of thing. I think that the message here is that if you are struggling because your your business is going under or has gone under, then collaboration
is the key.
Is where it is going to be at. Like, what skills do you actually have? Like, if you think about what your innate skills are, like, what are you really good at? We're really good at connecting people. We're really good at kind of, championing people and motivating people and helping people. What are your skills? And what can you apply that to, or who can you connect that with to then create
a new way?
And
don't be afraid to start again. Don't be afraid just to start all again. And it doesn't matter what age you are, what career path you've got. You can change career, and you can tweak your career. You can go, just help each other out. I guess that's our intention, right?
Yeah, that is the message. And I think we've done really well, because we've managed to keep that to about a half an hour.
Yay.
We've both been like keeping our eye on the time, like
the
whole time. They're like but yeah, I think like what would be a really good idea,
I think
it'd be a really good idea next time to kind of speak, I think, about things that people can do, or ways that we've been able to kind of like navigate through like how literally the roller coaster of what these last 12 months have been. Because I really feel that people are thinking, oh, it's a new year, so therefore this year is going to be better than next year, and I just want to kind of like set people's expectations that this is going to be something that is, we're in this for the long haul. Like, this is going to be something that is going to be continuously impacting us for some time.
Exactly.
And we don't want to be naive to think that all of a sudden we've come into 2021 and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows coming out of our asses.
Exactly. And I think
it's not necessarily going to be like that.
Obviously, we spoke about financially and career path. I think we could talk about personally how it could affect us, being stuck at home and not working, and relationships as well, or none.
Two perspectives.
Sweet.
But yeah, well, if you like, let us know if this actually helped you, or if you have, if you want any help on trying to kind of figure out how you can apply your skills to something else, I'm sure actually between the two of us, we'd be able to point you in the right direction, or at least connect you to somebody
Exactly
that is going to be able to help.
That's great. Thanks,
Amazing. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.